So welcome, Happy New Year. I'm Julie Quinn, Assessment Coordinator here at the State Board of Education. Terry Southam is with me, and we're going to talk about a few things today that are going to be coming up shortly for you all. These Wednesday webinars are meant to be just an additional check-in with you in the field, mostly to answer your questions, but to provide any updates that we have that are timely based on things that are happening. So Happy New Year. Coming back has kind of hit me in the face. Here we are with a bunch of things coming up shortly. So I hope that you've had a good New Year coming back to your offices. So we're just going to jump right in. I did send out a brief agenda about maybe a half hour ago to the assessment director's list. Anything that you want to talk about is fair game as well after we go through just a few updates. So first, I wanted to let you know that we will shortly have open an accountability specialist position. As many of you know, Dr. Whitney Phillips has taken a new role here with the State Board of Education, leaving the accountability specialist she was originally hired into vacant for the last couple of months. I was hoping that that application would be live right now so I could show you how to apply for it if you or anyone that you know would be interested in it. It's not quite live yet. I think it will probably go live either later today or tomorrow. It's going to be open for a number of weeks, but if you know anyone who may be a good fit for that position, please encourage them to apply. That accountability specialist position directly affects all of us, working through the accountability business rules and grading schools and federal accountability, all of that. So we would love to have someone who is well suited to that position apply in the next few weeks. So I wanted to let you know that that position is open and will soon be available. Why is my screen not updating? Let's see. Oh, no, that didn't work. Down here. Thank you, Terry. That will work. Okay, we are well into the ACT schedule of events. That's probably the most timely and important update. We are going to have an assessment directors meeting, I believe it's on January 19th, and ACT will be in town to do the training for spring. So that's going to happen right after the assessment directors meeting, I think still here at USOE. But please be aware of ACT and all of the tasks that you need to complete as an LEA. So there is a schedule of events on the ACT website. There's the link to the ACT website. This prior slide here, the schedule of events, if you actually click on it, it will take you to the ACT's website. And just a couple of highlights. Did I just say AT&T? My heaven's sakes. ACT, their customer service line is here, and Accommodations. So we are all about accommodations all the time right now with ACT. Jared Wright is the point of contact for ACT here in our office, and he had another commitment today, so I'm trying to cover this information. I hope I don't misspeak. So if you have any questions, let me know. Coming up shortly is the deadline for accommodations to be submitted. So super, super important. If you have not already started this process with your folks who have access to all the documentation that is needed to apply for accommodations for the ACT, that needs to get in the hopper very quickly. January 20th is the deadline for submitting the accommodations requests. And then there's a window for a late consideration form after this January 20th deadline, but this January 20th deadline is it's the strongly preferred window to get these requests in. So let's talk about a couple of things that have to happen in order to do that. So first, the student data has to get into the ACT system, which is called PA Next, Pearson Access Next. So ACT uses a Pearson product to manage all the student data for the ACT. That upload is happening from the state. We believe that we will, somewhere right around the 12th of January, be sending ACT the statewide data file to have it loaded into the system for your visibility by January 16th. So this is a little separate from the accommodations. Sorry, I just sounded like they were totally dependent on each other. They're not. You can apply for accommodations. Then when the state data goes to ACT, the student's record gets matched up with that accommodations request from the accommodations system. So there's two systems. You apply for the accommodations through the accommodations system, then the student data gets uploaded from the state into this PA Next system, and those two get synced. What's going to need to happen is shortly after the statewide upload, we need to have you all start checking and making sure that we caught all the kids that need to test. So all of these details are going to be covered during the ACT training on January 19th. But if you haven't submitted accommodations yet, that's like the day before accommodations are due. So ACT came out, was it in November? I think it was in November that ACT came out and did the accommodations training. And we honestly didn't have very many folks attend that, so I hope you all know what you're doing with accommodations or have contacted ACT directly to work through that workflow process. So this training on January 19th will be all things ACT other than the accommodations process, which is kind of, the ship will have sailed at that point. So if you have any questions about accommodations requests, I'd recommend that you contact Jared or ACT's customer service line directly, like pretty quick here, so that you understand the fairly rigorous process that has to be worked through to send in an application for a student to have an accommodation for the ACT. And then between January 27th and January 22nd, or sorry, February, thank you, 22nd, or March 8th for the online, there'll be a chance for you to be able to go in and manually move students around in PANet, add students who didn't get uploaded. And just like all of our other assessments where we give you the opportunity to go in and add data, there'll have to be a data validation process downstream to make sure that you entered Chris, we know that student is Christopher, and all of that data gets reconciled so we can use the student results from the ACT for all of the purposes that they're intended for. So that's just a quick overview of the dates coming up here. The other is related to online testing for ACT. And there's a deadline of January 26th, so that's coming up right here as well, for the site readiness process to have been gone through. If a school is planning on giving the ACT online and the site readiness checklist is not completed by January 26th, then you will be reverted back to paper. There is not a secondary window to go through that. So we've got accommodations that are due on the 20th, site readiness for online due by the 26th. We've got the in-person training on the 19th to walk through all the nuts and bolts of giving the ACT. And then, we have the window through March 14th to create test sessions and add students for the online side. So that's a lot kind of back and forth with ACT. I think the punchline is, if you're not completely familiar with these dates and these processes, you need to become so very quickly by contacting Jared and or the ACT customer service line. So with going back and forth with a lot of dates really quickly, I'll pause here and take a look at the chat window and see if there are any questions related to ACT. So I'll give you a second to type in there. Questions, concerns? I don't think anyone's typing. So maybe those of you who have logged in are skilled professionals and none of that's a surprise to you, which would be awesome. All right. I don't see any messages coming in the chat line. Am I on everyone? I am on everyone. Okay, so we're going to move on, and if you need me to loop through back to the ACT, I'm happy to do so, or send Jared an email to follow up directly with him. Okay, so let's get out of Oh, thanks, Emily. The ACT training on January 19th does have an on-track registration. Emily put that number in the chat box there. 64932 is the course number. If you could let us know that you're planning to stay for that ACT training, that helps us be able to just prepare for who's coming and all of that. Okay, good. All right, shifting gears to another reminder about training. The SAGE trainings for spring are going to show on the screen in just a second when I click the right button. There we are. All right, they're going to be held at the end of January. So there will be one new all-day in-person training. This is the full soup to nuts walkthrough of the SAGE system. TIDE, TDS, ORS, maybe the benchmarks too, Terry, if we have time. It tends to be a pretty full day going through all the data management related to giving TIDE, the test administration for TIDE, looking at ORS and the reports. That full day training on Tuesday, January 31st will not be recorded because it's an all-day kind of drink from a fire hose, hands-on kind of training. So if you have new staff that have not been involved with the administration of SAGE from a district or an LEA level before, we would love to have them come. We'd love to have you come if you're new. The idea is that you all receive the training from an LEA level, then you go back and train your teachers. So it's not intended for you to send all your teachers to this training. This is the assessment director training for Giving SAGE for new folks or anyone who would like a full walkthrough refresher of the system. So again, that's an on-track. There's the course number and section number there. That will be here at USBE in the boardrooms. Not my favorite place to do a training, but we'll be cozy and get that taken care of. Then the following day, the Wednesday webinar for February, will be the SAGE training for those of you who have administered SAGE before successfully to receive updates from things that have changed since the fall. We'll probably talk about some things that have changed since last spring as well. So it's not a full walkthrough. It'll be a webinar just talking through the changes to the system. Many of you have been on this journey with us for a number of years, and this will be the one that you'll want to watch. Unless you want to come do the full walkthrough, which you're absolutely welcome to do the day before here in person. So those are coming up quickly as well. Wanted to make sure you saw those on-track course numbers and had those 2 dates. This is the only training that we have scheduled for Spring SAGE, before the testing window opens mid-March. So this is the chance to get fully up to speed. There aren't a ton of changes with the system, but there are a few little things. And as I told AIR this morning, sometimes it's the little things that scare me more than the big things because the little things tend to fall through the cracks a little more. So there are just a few little changes. So you will want to make sure you watch live or watch the recording of that webinar to make sure you're up to speed for spring. Any questions on the SAGE side? Those trainings that are coming up? I'm looking for any noise on the chat line. So ACT's right here in the moment. SAGE training's coming up shortly. Assessment directors meeting on January 19th as well. Okay. So the webinars are always recorded. Heaven help us that the technology gods allow us to do so. We record the webinars and post them. So the February 1st SAGE training will be recorded, but the all-day in-person training is not recorded because that's a hands-on live kind of training. It's too difficult to try and consume the entire SAGE system watching a recording.
Yeah.
It's just...
And where we're walking around helping individual things.
Yes. We want you to be able to log in and complete the tasks and do that in person. So the Tuesday is not recorded, but the Wednesday updates, that will be recorded. Okay. Any other questions? Just some quick updates. Okay. So Terry, I have your slides from last night.
Okay.
Do you have more slides that you sent me?
2 more I put in your email.
Okay, so let's grab, goodness sakes.
And this is last minute because a question came up this morning. We just got this information, spoke to Robin from AIR about this, and because it's coming up in the help desk a little bit, we wanted to make sure that...
Wait, are we still broadcasting?
Yes.
Oh, haha, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, go ahead, keep talking. We're still broadcasting.
Okay. So anyway, a few questions have come up in the at the help desk, and so we wanted to give you some information about the benchmark.
Do you want to go there next or this one?
Let's do benchmark. Okay. So now to share that screen. There you go.
And I'll give you minutes.
All right. So the first thing, the first question was about looking at completion reports. Benchmark modules are assigned by the grade level rather than a course core code. And so two things you need to be aware of. If you have not started giving benchmark modules yet, and you have 12th graders that you want to administer to, be aware that you need to go in to TIDE and assign them the benchmark modules, because it doesn't automatically trigger to them, because the tests are triggered for grades 3 through 11. So if you have a 12th grader that you want to take a benchmark module, you'll have to enable them. And unfortunately, that is an individual student by student enabling thing. So it can be a little time consuming. The next question that was coming up was about the completion reports. So in interim and summative, you can generate a report that'll tell you who hasn't started yet. And so it'll identify all the students who have that course code, and then identify those students that have not begun. Benchmarks, because they're grade level specific rather than core code specific, will not tell you who has not started. They will tell you you can do a completion report for students who have started the test and just didn't complete it.
Ah.
But you're not going to see who hasn't even started.
That makes sense to me.
So
I was having a hard time following that when we were first talking about it, but right, the eligibility doesn't trigger the same way.
So just be aware of that you can still run your test completion reports at the school and district level, but it will only tell you who has started a test but not completed it versus who still needs to even just start.
So will it also show them who's completed the test so they can see who's done?
Well, the report is just an Excel file, and so it gives you a number of students. It doesn't give you
who,
specific.
which students.
Yeah, it will tell you the who.
So it's not very useful, in other words.
It will tell you if they're being used.
Yeah,
so
sort of midstream. Okay, I see.
Yeah. So that was one question that was coming into the help desk. The second one, so good news. In benchmark, in the writing and the literature passages, the passages are now available. That was something that was requested. It came live just before the Christmas break, and so we've had a few people jump in even just yesterday, today. What we're noticing, though, is that when the teachers go into Airways and they look for their student, how the students did and what their responses were, so they can see a raw score. So they're out of 10 points, they can see a 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. So they see a raw score. And then you can see what the students actually wrote, but you do not have any kind of rubric to tell you how they got that score. So the rubric on Airways right now just says NA. What will go into that is a static document. So it will be just the rubrics that you can find on the SAGE portal. It will not be that color changing rubric that we see on the ISRs. Okay, so just be aware of that. And so that one's kind of a darn, we wish we had that. It's an enhancement that they are kind of looking at, but probably won't be ready until fall. And so there's a suggestion. Those rubrics and scoring guides are available on the portal. You can print those off. The scoring guides are available when the students log into their secure testing site. The button up at the above their prompt is a drop down that'll show their scoring guides of how they can score well on their writing. And there's a couple of suggestions, copy and paste the student responses over so that you have a paper copy, and then you can talk about the rubrics. It's kind of clunky right now, but we're one step closer. We got the passages now. So, and we do hear from the field a desire to have some more information for teachers, but just be aware that right now there's a placeholder for the rubric, but nothing's showing up.
I see. So what do they see? What results do they get for writing?
So in the writing, they see the raw score, and then they see what the students actually wrote.
Okay, so they see this. They see how the scoring played out,
right?
Just not the feedback on what contributed to that score.
Correct.
Right.
Where the ISRs do give some feedback. Right. Benchmarks are just, again, we're only looking at a reporting category. It's a very small thing, and so they just have not built in those dimensional scoring pieces yet.
Yeah, that's too bad. That's a good catch that folks were asking for that.
Yep.
So they get the score, they see the rubric, and then either the teacher would have to guide the student through how to improve their writing based on that rubric and the feedback, or they could do like peer review kind of sessions, or copy and paste the essay into Utah to Compose to get Utah Compose feedback on it.
Right.
To put up against the SAGE scoring.
So a lot of extra steps there. The one advantage with the Utah Compose idea would be that if you're really looking for feedback, the Utah Compose will give you feedback right now, but if you want to know what SAGE would score it as, you have to do it through the benchmark.
Interesting. Good. So, okay, thanks for taking us through that. Does anyone have any questions on the benchmark stuff? You have other stuff, right?
I have one more thing.
So, you probably could have done this better. I should have just left you with the mouse. Okay, this one, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, just that one.
So, a reminder, we are having a reporting training for principals on SAGE and Data Gateway on February 8th. At this point in On Track, we haven't had anybody sign up for it yet, and so we just wanted to put it out there again. It is an all-day training. We will break for lunch. There are a couple places around here that you'll be able to go for lunch, probably a 45-minute lunch break coming back in. What we're looking at is really digging into how to use the ORS system to maybe identify some specific reporting categories that students are struggling in, also going into the gateway and looking at some of the new tools. The proficiency movement tool had a request back in September, October, to have an advancement that has been put into play. It's getting some good feedback, and so if you're not acquainted with that, we encourage you to look at that tool. But anybody who's having questions about their reports, would love to have you come and let's help you out there.
Great, good plug for that. And then any other training that you all think would be useful for you, let us know, because we haven't had a lot of requests this year. So maybe you're all just
doing so well
that we worked ourselves out of a job, which would be great because we can spend our time working on additional features for you and things. But if there's other trainings that you would like from our office, let us know so that we can see what resources we have to put together additional things.
Good. Sounds like I have one.
Yay, Teresa will come.
Person. That's great.
That's good. Tony, you asked, will the recording of the February 1st SAGE training be available by Friday, February 3rd? Probably not, because it takes It takes us a good couple of days to prep those files to get posted to our website. So probably not. That's a great question. Emily, how long does it take usually? I mean, sometimes Emily can work miracles, but it takes, she says
she'll do her best.
Yeah. We'll note that and try, Tony, but early the next week's probably more likely. So good question. Good. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, good. What do you all want to talk about? Questions that we've been going so full steam ahead that sometimes I'm not sure what we've told you and what we haven't about different things. So you have Terry and my undivided attention for the remainder of the half hour, as much time as you would like to have to ask whatever you want. So you can type into the chat. We could even have you unmute yourself maybe, and you could talk if the audio works. But I'm looking at the chat here. What issues are pressing for you all that we can help support you with? Anyone? Anything? Tony's good. Awesome. We did get the ACT contract signed. That's probably an important update. So we actually are full steam ahead with the ACT for this spring. We just got that signature, hard copies taken care of over the holiday break. So we are good for ACT for the spring. What else? Okay. The ACT slide again. Yes, absolutely, John. Let me pull that back up. ACT. Well, now how come it did it over on that screen? Silly thing. Can you see it? Let's see. That slide. Yeah, you can see it, right? There you are, John. Sorry about the box. Here, I'll move my box. Okay, John, chat if you want me to clarify or follow up with anything on that ACT slide. Question is asked, do we have progress on a SAGE replacement in the future? So the state board is actively in the process of working with a committee it has appointed to begin the preparation for the contractual process to procure a new SAGE-like contract. So I don't really have an update other than that is in progress. That committee has met several times now. And then once that RFP gets posted, we will let you know that that's been posted, has not been posted yet. And the timeline on that is somewhat subject to the board and state purchasing. But that is in progress, and you should be hearing some noise about that new RFP and new contract this spring. Your device will restart because previous attempts. Okay, I don't know what that means. We're going to close out that scary computer message coming up.
Okay, so I see a question about the SAGE benchmark trainings. There is a webinar recording on the USBE assessment director's website, and it is labeled. You'll see that it says SAGE benchmark. That was about an hour and a half. Yeah, let's see if we can find it up there. And anytime you have a question, please feel free to call me or email me. Terry Southam is the last name.
There's my browser. There you go. So schools.utah.gov, assessment, now where?
Assessment directors, under meeting information, and this year, and scrolling down 2. Hang on.
We're not.
I got to look at the dates, right under the dates.
November.
Oh, there we go. October 5th. Wednesday webinar.
Oh, there we go.
It says student assessment of growth, benchmark modules. So October 5th was when we did that training. And so it's under your assessment director meeting under this year. And you'll see that presentation and things.
Good. And then if you want anything else, let Terry know.
Yep.
If that's needed.
Okay.
So for the SAGE replacement contract, is AIR in the running or is it pretty out? The procurement process is completely open. So if AIR chooses to respond, they can choose to respond. The bid or the RFP has not been posted yet, so no one has responded at this point because we're not to that point yet. But any vendor is able to apply, and then we go through that procurement procedure, to all that. So there is nothing that can prohibit AIR from bidding. I don't know if they're going to do so or not. So we'll wait and see how that procurement plays out. Good? Other questions? How can you sign up using OnTrack without a Cactus ID? So you email us. So we like to use OnTrack. We can manually add people to the registration, but we like to use OnTrack because it allows us to track the trainings that we're doing and provide numbers back to, the folks here who look at whether or not we're using our resources wisely and all of those things. It just helps us to be able to document what we're doing. But yeah, you can email Emily, you can email Terry or whoever's conducting the training, and we can get you added.
Right. Question about sending the PowerPoint. So this will all can be compiled.
We'll post it, and it'll be right here. So on this website, notice we just throw these Wednesday webinars in with the assessment directors meeting. So as soon as we're done here, then Emily does her magic to work with our, IVC folks and our IT folks to get the PowerPoints and the recordings posted. So it'll be right here as January 4th, Wednesday webinar, probably by the beginning of next week. Good. Other questions? What else y'all want to talk about? Lost my chat bar. What else is on your mind? Anything? Okay. Well, looks like we're about ready to wrap up then, unless you have things you would like to talk about. Any UTIPS updates? So not beyond what we've talked about before, Teresa. I believe